All right, so this is page 200 of the workbook. This is solving systems by substitution. So you should be able to solve these without graphing them. You'll still arrive at an answer, one of the three answers that we had when we graphed them. If they cross each other, we'll get one solution, which will be an ordered pair. You could get a no solution, which is indicating that they are parallel lines, or you could get infinite solutions, which means it's a line on top of a line. So for the first one, number one, y equals 2x minus 4, but y also equals x minus 1. These y's represent the same thing. They're saying that this y equals a certain amount, and down here it equals the same exact amount. If we knew what x was already, we could plug it in, and we would get the same amount for the top and the bottom. But we don't know what x is yet, so we have to solve it. Right now there are two variables. We can't solve it when there's two variables in there. We got to eliminate one of them. Well, what we can do is we can substitute something in, especially for this y value. We know what y is worth. It's worth this much right here because it says y equals this amount. So we can actually put that in for the y value because it is representative of how much y is worth. So we would have x minus 1 equals 2x minus 4. And so at this point we want to get the x's all to one side. So it would be better for us to subtract an x from both sides than it would be to subtract two x's. It'll work either way, but if you can keep it positive, that would be helpful for you. So x minus x, those cancel each other out. That's just 1 minus 1. The negative 1 comes down, the equal sign comes down. 2x, take away an x. Remember, that's a 1, that's a negative 1x, okay? Just like this was a positive 1 and a negative 1. So 2x's, take away 1x, leaves just x. Negative 4 or minus 4, it comes down. Trying to isolate x, get it by itself. So we need to get rid of the minus 4, so we're going to add 4 because that'll cancel it out. And it's the inverse operation, it's the opposite. So those two things cancel each other out. And we have x on the right hand side. On the left hand side we have negative 1 plus 4, which is 3. So we end up with 3 equals x, or x equals 3, you can say it either way. So we have half of an answer because this is going to be two functions that cross each other. That's the x value. We need to find the y value. Well, to find the y value, we need to substitute 3 in to one of those equations. It doesn't matter which one you pick the one that's the simplest. Substitute 3 in for the x value. So if I choose this bottom equation right here, that would be y equals 3. Remember, we're going to replace this x with the 3 because x is a 3 minus 1. So y equals 2. That's our y value. So we know that the final answer is an ordered pair of 3, 2. This is the answer right here. It indicates that the two functions or the two lines cross each other at the point 3, 2.
Medicine to the office.
All right, problem number 2. Same thing. We can substitute in this value right here for that y. Or you can substitute in this value to this y. It doesn't matter. As long as we set them equal to each other. All right. So at this point I can either subtract an x from both sides to eliminate the left side, or I can add an x to both sides, which would eliminate this right-hand x. It would be better to add so that we keep this positive. If we do it this way, we get 2x plus 2 equals 10. Because these x's, it's a negative 1 and a positive 1. So negative 1x and a positive 1x, they cancel each other out. They're gone. So we have 2x plus 2 equals 10. If we're trying to get this x all by itself, we need to get rid of this constant, and it's plus 2. So the opposite of that would be to subtract 2 from both sides. And we get 2x, these cancel out, equals 8. So the last step would be to get rid of the 2, you divide, because they're going to cancel each other out. And we get x equals 4. And so we have our x value. Now we need our y value, so we can use this bottom equation again. It's a little bit more simple. So y equals, remember x is going to be replaced with a 4. So it's y equals 4 plus 2, which means y must equal 6. So the final answer is the ordered pair 4, 6. Okay. Alright, problem number 3. I'm going to substitute all of this in for that y value. And the reason is because it says y equals all of this. So negative 3x minus 6 equals 2x minus 1. So all of this went right there. Alright, negative 3x, positive 2x. I can add 3x's to either side, or I can subtract 2x's from both sides. It's going to be better if I add 3x's. Just keeps everything positive, makes it a little easier for everybody. So these are going to cancel out, and that's left with negative 6 equals 2x plus 3 more x's is 5x's minus 1. I want to get rid of the constant, the minus 1, so I add 1 to both sides. I get negative 5 equals 5x. At this point, we need to divide both sides by 5, because we want to cancel out the 5 coefficient that's in front of the x. So those cancel each other out. Negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1 equals x. So to find the y value, we're going to substitute negative 1 back into one of the equations. I think I'll just use the top equation this time. It looks to be simple enough. So y equals 2 times x, but we know x is actually a negative 1 minus 1. So y equals negative 2 minus 1, so therefore y equals negative 3. So our final answer, this is a one solution problem, and the answer is negative 1, comma, negative 3. That's where the two lines will cross. Problem number 4. Alright, it's a pretty simple problem. Remember, we're just going to take all of this, and we're going to substitute that in for y. So we have 12 minus x equals 2x. So I want to add an x to both sides, so plus 1x plus 1x. And if you want to, if it helps, put a 1, understood 1 in there. So I have 12, negative 1x, positive 1x cancel each other out, so those are gone. 2x plus 1 more x is 3x. Last step will be to divide both sides by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4 equals x. There's my x value. And so now I need to plug that back in. Either one works, so we can just plug back into that first one. So y equals 2 times x, and x is a 4. So y equals 8. And so our final answer is 4, 8. Problem number 5. Alright, they're still in slope-intercept form, so that's great. Means I don't have to change anything. I can take all of this and substitute it in for y. So I'll have 2x plus 1 equals 2x minus 3. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides because I want to eliminate this first set of x's. So these cross out. It leaves me with 1 equals. These cancel each other out as well, which leaves me with negative 3. Does 1 equal negative 3? No. This is not a true statement, so this means we have no solution. Well, anytime you have a no solution problem, that means the lines have to be parallel to each other. The only way these two lines can be parallel is if they have the same exact slope. So if we examine their slopes, 2 and 2. Indeed, they have the same slope. If we were to graph these, they would look something like this on the graph. The first one right here would start at -3, and you can imagine if this is your y-axis and it starts at -3 and it's going to go up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1, this would be your second equation starting at +1 and going up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1. So they are indeed parallel lines. Their slopes match each other. There will be no solution to this because they never touch. Problem number 6. Alright, still in slope-intercept form. I'll just take all of this because it's equal to y. I'll substitute that in for y. So I have x plus 1 equals 3x minus 1. So I'm going to subtract an x from both sides. It's a 1x. Remember, you had understood 1 here as well. So 1x minus 1x, they're gone. They cancel each other out. Don't want to put too many lines in here, but those are gone. That leaves me with 1 equals 3x. Take away 1x is going to be 2x, and then minus 1 comes down. So I want to add 1 to both sides. And so I get 2 equals 2x. The 1's, they simply cancel each other out. They're gone. So the last step is to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Those 2 cancel out. I'm left with 1 equals x. And then the last step would be to solve for y, so I'll just use the bottom equation. Y equals 1 plus 1, so y equals 2. So now I have my x and my y value. So the final answer to this is 1, 2.